We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
We simply assume that the way we see things is the way they really are or the way they should be, and our attitudes and behaviors grow out of those assumptions. What do you think about that? I found it somewhat interesting on this beautiful Tuesday morning. You tell me what you think. Nonetheless, it is time for part 2 of the Christina Jasper interview. And that is because it is Tuesday, January 7th, 2014. Did you know that on this day in history in 1782, the Bank of North America opened in Philadelphia? It was the first commercial bank in the United States. Also on this day in history, in 1926, George Burns and Gracie Allen were married. Who in the world is George Burns and Gracie Allen in 1926? I probably should know that because apparently that's a significant thing. And on this day in history, in 1927, in hockey in Hinckley, Illinois, the Harlem Globetrotters played their first game. Well, congratulations, Harlem Globetrotters. Even though it's not real basketball, it's kind of like wrestling. It's kind of like WWE. It's not real wrestling, it's wrestling entertainment. Harlem Globetrotters, not really basketball, but basketball entertainment. And apparently they're making a lot of money. They've been around since 1927, folks. And today, Tuesday, January 7th, an actor by the name of Nicolas Cage is celebrating his birthday. Nicolas Cage was born on this day in 1964. Let me ask you a question, and I think I will not answer the answer. I will not give you the answer until tomorrow. He talked the lion out of eating him and later returned the favor by gnawing on the ropes that bound the lion. Who is blank? I will give you the answer tomorrow. I'm going to give you a quick Ashley beat. She was kind enough to grace my inbox. Always love having her on. She likes to answer some of these Jeopardy questions. We're waiting on your insight as well. So, without further ado, here is yours and my favorite nerd, the mayor of nerdom, the cutest nerd in all the land for me to enjoy and you to enjoy. Oh, boy. Angels.
Who is Pyramus? I believe that should be the answer to your Jeopardy question from your show the other day. And I believe you did pronounce Disney right. I believe it's Pyramus and Disney. And basically they are a Roman mythological couple, similar to Romeo and Juliet. When they were growing up in Europe, and they were on opposite walls, their houses were connected or something like that. But they were afraid of them to see each other, so they planned to meet. But then Disney got scared, she saw a lion, she ran, and since the lion had attacked something, she had dropped her cloak and it got blood on it. He came out, found it, and then killed himself. She came, found him while he was dying, took his sword, and killed herself as well. And so it's kind of the Roman mythology of Romeo and Juliet. So I'm not sure if it's right or not, but I believe that would be the answer to it.
Well, there you have it, folks. The final kibosh on the whole mess. So the question's been answered by the one and only Ashley. Yours and my favorite nerd. And now I take you to part 2 of this interview that I have with Christina. I can tell that you're enjoying it. I ask you to remember to give me a call. Where's the number? I have it floating around here somewhere. Call me on this show at 614-559-3940. Let me know what you think about what's going on with this interview. And I want to hear your story. We'll get to know each other. 614-559-3940. All right, I'm going now to part 2 of the Christina interview. Here goes nothing. You're listening to Life with Doug Radio, presented by my site, DouglasCrabtree.com. This is weird and odd transition sounds. That means you're going from one segment to the next.
New Year's was awesome. I got to talk to my brother, and he was in Osaka. So he was away from the school where he works on which island is that? Awaji. He works on Awaji, so he was on the main island in the city of Osaka. So.
What country is that?
Japan.
So he was in Japan doing what now? He's at school?
He's teaching.
Oh, okay. That's exciting.
Teaching ninth graders, which is still junior high over there.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, their school system is pretty different than our school system. You actually have to test into next grade.
Isn't that the way it is here also?
Not really. We test to get into colleges and stuff, but they test to get from junior high to high school.
Oh, I got you.
So and it's a lot harder because you got to take English as one of your classes every single year, and you've got to pass that to go on.
Yeah. So, I wanted to get back to you, but I don't remember where we left off. Do you remember where we left off?
I believe we left off with background stuff, like going through early childhood.
No, I remember we were talking about you were saying that when you lived in that town, people knew you didn't have very much. They gave you stuff.
Oh, yeah, that was when I was living with my spouse.
Right. Richard? Is that his name?
Yes.
So, let's get into that if you want.
All right.
So, I was trying to remember where we was. You, living with this guy. He, but you and him had not quite gotten like, you said it really wasn't that physical at first, right? It wasn't really. See, I never got that. I never got why he would want you if he didn't want to be physical with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it took me almost 5.5 years before I figured out why he wanted me.
You mean was you weren't with him for 5.5 years, was you?
I was with him for 5.5 years. I married him at 21 years of age.
Wow.
Yeah, stupid move. But,
So you moved in with him when you were 21. You left the house, but you went to college that day and left from there, and your parents didn't know that you were not coming home. How did they find out? Did you ever call them or anything?
actually, they eventually figured I wasn't there because they went to go pick me up, and my brother couldn't find me, and my parents couldn't find me, so they figured I'd probably, done something, really stupid. And so they started calling my phone, and they weren't nice messages at all.
Well, how did they know to be rude? I mean, how did they know that it was your fault? They didn't assume anything other than you did something bad? They didn't... They never assumed that maybe you got lost or something happened? Nothing?
They didn't assume anything until they tried to get a hold of me, and I had an instinct not to pick up my phone, because the fact is that if I did, I would end up in the most huge emotional wreck, and then I would be,
Let me ask you, why didn't you just want to talk to them and tell them what happened?
Because of the fact that they were dead set on my education, and every single time I would try to, get like a boyfriend or girlfriend, it would turn into a war between the two of us, or 4 of us, or whatever.
Your parents don't think you should be with anybody, right? Because of your Asperger's?
Yeah.
What do they think would happen? That you would just be taken advantage of or something?
No, they don't want me to end up with more children like that.
They don't want you to have children. They said that?
Yep.
They said because you're was diagnosed with Asperger's, autism, that you shouldn't have kids. And they said that to you.
Yeah, they shouldn't raise kids.
How did that make you feel?
Rejected.
How do you think you should raise kids, or do you think maybe it would be better that you didn't?
I've had that war with myself for a long time. And sometimes I think no, and other times, I don't mind. But at my age now, I don't know.
Right.
I don't have an education to be able to get work that would be applicable for a family.
You don't have education for what now? To get work that would be good for a family?
Yeah.
Who said
that would...
Well, you can work many different types of jobs, and you don't need you have a high school diploma?
I have a high school diploma.
You can get a lot of jobs with a high school diploma. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know that. But my dream job, I couldn't.
A what job?
My dream job.
So they left nasty messages. Did you ever eventually call them back?
After a good while, after 48 hours, I did finally get up the call to call them back.
What was Richard saying about all that?
Richard had actually asked me to do so, and when I got cussed out for what I had done, he barred me from ever talking to them again.
What'd they say to you? How'd that conversation go?
It was a nightmare. It was name calling and calling me like a retard and a whore and all kinds of things. And
your mom called you a retarded whore?
Mm-hmm.
You got to be kidding me. Is that the mom you're living with now?
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you ever go back home? Not to get too far ahead, but did she eventually apologize or anything?
She's apologized, and I also found out that Richard was not the right guy, because Richard eventually betrayed me too.
But they apologized for their stuff, or were they just wanted you to come back, or were they really sorry?
They were generally sorry, and they told me that they didn't mean to react the way they did. They were panicked because they just, I think in a lot of ways that just because they haven't ever had their own kids, we were the first, me and John were adopted, not real kids. And so, I think they reacted badly because of the fact that they didn't have, that experience with having their own child and everything. Because when you adopt kids, there are so many issues going on. Like, I had the Asperger's on top of the fact that I came from a highly, abusive household from my birth family. So, you got all those issues.
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, you were 21, right?
Right.
So I'm surprised that they would freak out. I mean, you can do what you want. But anyways, so when's the first time you and him got physical with each other? I'm very interested because he's so much older than you. Remind us again how old he was at that time, that first couple weeks.
All right. I was 21 and he was 65.
And were you attracted to him physically? You said no, right?
No.
But what was going through your mind that first couple weeks?
Well, I figured out that, I felt sorry for the old man. He was, alone, just like I was alone. I was pathetically alone. I felt I needed to have somebody and feel wanted.
Did he feel more like a dad than a husband, or what?
He felt more like a dad. Dad that, I had never, had. Like, yeah, I had an adopted father, but I didn't have, like, a dad, like, something genetic to me. And I felt he was the closest thing to a genetic father. So.
Wasn't he, like, being intimate with you and stuff like that?
You know, the intimacy was never really got serious at all, you know. It was just, you know, walk beside one another in a store or hang out with one another, and everybody just didn't see us as a couple. They saw father, daughter, or grandfather, you know.
Is that how you felt? Like, you felt like his daughter?
Yeah, I felt like his daughter.
So where did you sleep on the first night you were there?
He had me, you know, just sleeping mostly in the same bed. But the thing was, I just didn't feel, you know, a connection with him.
Did you tell him that?
I would just roll away from him and roll over and just go to sleep, you know.
You didn't try to make love to him or nothing at first?
No.
So did he know, before he went and picked you up and everything and met you for the first time and picked you up, did he know that you were not going to be sexual with him? Or was it a surprise to him?
He thought that he was going to have, you know, a wife that would cook and clean for him, you know, give him one more child or two more, which, to be honest, Doug, I am very scared to do so. But that's something you can ask me later about. Because physically my mother had trouble having me. I was, you know, I was reversed in her womb, so.
So that first night you're there, he says, "All right, let's go to bed." And did he ever ask you or try to get like physical with you? That's interesting to me. That just the age difference and how, I don't know how you would handle that, because you seen him as a father, but I think he saw you as his new young wife, right?
Right. And he did try, but I am pretty damn stubborn, and all I really have to do is turn around and just act like dead weight. You know, I'm able to ignore, and that's what I did. I just turned over, covered myself, and went to bed.
And he never did he ever force himself on you or anything?
There were one or two times he tried to pull me over towards him, and I literally had to pull myself away because I just didn't want the closeness.
Did
I didn't
you
want
say
to
anything to him?
again.
Did you say anything to him when he was doing that? When he was pulling you?
Well, you found him. Good. All right, you better get out and get the dog. You're nuts. Thanks, Dad. Sorry, that was my father.
That's all
Bringing
right.
my cat.
You all good now?
Yeah, we got the fort secured.
The fort is secured?
Yep.
So, wow, 5.5 years. I imagine. Did he propose to you after he met you, or was that something that he told you he wanted to do before he even met you?
He proposed before he ever met me.
And you said yes?
And I said yes. And I should have said, I have to see you first.
Why is that? Because you didn't like the way he looked?
Well, it wasn't about looks, Doug, as much as now that I know a lot of facts about that type of guy.
What type of guy?
Ended up seeing out of him, the abuser. You know, I'd have to see a guy and hang out with him a lot more than just a few days, you know. And we were just, you know, we were talking over the phone constantly. But the thing was that when we got together in person, and 5.5 years is a long time, I know, but we started hating what one another was made of, you know, who one another was. You know, he was sit on his ass, not go anywhere type of person, and I was the exact opposite.
He was
And there
was
no
doing what now?
compatibility there.
He was doing what now? You started.
He would sit on his butt, watch TV, you know, stuff unhealthy food down his throat, and
Was he a big guy? Is he a fat guy?
yeah, he was a fat guy.
Is he like obese, fat, or what?
300 pounds.
So this is an old 65. How old was he? 65.
He was 65 when I married him. He was 72. He's 72 now.
So you're 21, and okay. Did you ever see like a picture or video of him before you got in his car?
I only saw like pictures on MySpace of him. This is before MySpace went down.
Did he look huge in his pictures, or did he look handsome, or what?
He looked pretty. He looked pretty big in his pictures. He actually looked unhealthy in his pictures.
So you were never once physically attracted to him, were you? Not in the whole time?
Nope, not the whole time at all.
You married the guy for security, right?
Security.
All right, so you're with him, you're sleeping on opposite side of the bed, you're not touching or intimate or nothing. And, I mean, you guys are the odd couple. You're a tiny girl. What do you weigh, like 92 pounds?
Around 110 to 100, like 100 pounds, like right in between.
So he's like 4 of you. Wow.
I'm only 5'3" and a half in height.
What? Let me ask you something straight up. What the hell were you thinking?
I don't know if I was thinking at all. I really think it was all emotional. I was all going through that, you know, that 21-year-old emotional brain nonsense that girls go through.
Do you think you'll do something like that again, or what?
No, I think I'm vaccinated against it now.
Because there was another guy, and you even had a picture of him or something, I thought, on Facebook, but I'm getting ahead of myself anyway. We'll get into that. So how did he ask you to marry him? He brought it up the second time, and he was serious and wanted to do it, right?
Right, and he asked me the wrong way over the phone if I'd marry him.
You mean before you met him?
Oh, yeah.
So, how long did you live with him before you were married?
48 hours.
You married him in 2 days after meeting him in person.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the whole plan then, right?
That was the whole plan.
Did you like go to local church? Was his church involved? How did the wedding go? Or was it like a courthouse thing or what?
We did the courthouse thing.
Were you scared, nervous, confused, anything?
More or less after we said the I do's, like we were both surprised. But other than that, I didn't feel too nervous. I felt maybe a little bit, but nothing that was screaming, run. So I was just...
Did you have a honeymoon at all?
Not really. We just stayed at the house mostly.
What'd this guy do? What'd this guy do for a living?
Well, he was an insurance man, and then he just stopped working. And he had this kid to raise. And the kid at the time, when I got married to him, was 14 years old.
Did you know the kid and interact with him?
Pardon me?
Is it a son or a daughter?
It was a son.
And you knew the kid?
The kid that was from a previous relationship, and it was his by another woman.
Did you know the kid? Did you like talk to him and stuff? Was he hanging around the house at all?
Yeah, he was hanging around the house a lot.
Was he good? Was he good looking?
He didn't have anybody else other than me to talk to, and he really despised talking to me in the first place. So.
Well, he might have been like attracted to you, right? You were closer to his age than anybody, right?
Yeah, I was closer to the kid's age.
Did you like him at all? Do you think he was cute or what? I mean, legally you were a stepmother, but psychologically, did you have a crush or anything on him? I mean, he was, I don't know.
No.
You guys were almost, you were a lot closer to age than you and your husband, right?
Right.
But nothing was there?
He was there.
Wow. So on the day of the night of the wedding at home, was there any like sex or talk about sex or anything?
There was no talk about it. He was, he was playing, sweet guy and, flirty and all that stuff. And I was, I was like, this is cool. He's being nice to me. And that didn't last. Believe me, it didn't last.
Tell me about that not lasting. When did you guys have sex? I mean, let's get to the nuggets here. What happened? How long did it take for you? Didn't you say you banged him like one time?
Actually, we tried to, but the thing was, as soon as he got on his back, he went limp. So, and me not having any experience with that, I was, I felt stupid. Well,
Confused? You felt confused and what?
I only felt worse when he started hollering about my inexperience. And one time I actually went into the woods to get some peace and quiet and met one of my friends in the woods. And we were talking and everything, and this friend was the same age.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So, hold the phone a second here. When did that happen where you tried to have sex with him? Was that right after the wedding or what?
Yeah, that was like right after.
Like the same night?
Yeah, it was like the same night. And we both failed at that because
you didn't know what to do and he couldn't get hard, right? You there?
Yeah.
Is that right? You didn't know what to do and he couldn't keep it up?
Yeah.
So, how'd that conversation go?
Not well. It turned actually into a shouting match. And
What was he yelling about? It wasn't your fault, was it?
no, it wasn't my fault. I had no experience.
So you got this guy, you met him 2 days ago, not what you want, but you married him, and now he's yelling at you because you're inexperienced sexually. What was going on in your mind when that was happening? Was that this?
I pretty much just told him, I'm not going to listen to this. And I went and took my bath and ignored him.
You did what?
I just turned my back and walked away and went into the bathroom and started my water up for my bath and locked the door and just did my bath. I ignored him.
Wow. What a start to a marriage, huh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You have quite a story, I'm telling you.
Yeah, and I've got quite an attitude from it, so.
I'll be dang. Was he pounding on the bathroom door or anything like that?
No, he just shouted from the bedroom a lot, and I just
What was he saying? What was he yelling?
He was telling me how, inexperienced I was, and, he wished his, stuff wouldn't be acting up, and I said, I just didn't say anything, and he kept yelling about, my inexperience, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't...
What did he say? What did he say?
Well, he told me that I needed to get a real man to do something to me, to get me to learn something, and...
Was he being serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
So you're in the bath, taking a bath, the night of your marriage, the night you signed the papers, and he's yelling through the wall how you need to get a younger guy or whatever to teach you how to do stuff sexually.
Yeah.
What was you thinking?
I was thinking I needed to get even with his emotions and torture him, and I said he'd stop. And
so you were just you weren't scared at all? You were ready to fight? You didn't care?
I didn't care. And I was at a point in my life I really didn't give a shit.
Why was you so angry at life, though? I mean, this guy took you in, and wasn't he the answer to your prayers in a sense?
Well, in a way he was, but like I said, that first year was very, very rocky. And he decided that I needed to be taught who was in charge of the household. And I wasn't broken yet. I was still a little horse. And he forgot one day to, watch who I was talking to. Well, I talked to somebody my own age. And he started yelling and carrying on that day.
You talking about another guy? You talking about a guy or a girl?
It was a guy. And
how'd you meet this guy that was your age? Was it on the internet or something?
Oh no, he was in the neighborhood.
So how did you end up talking to some guy in the neighborhood? What happened? You were out taking a walk and what? What happened?
Well, I was a big outdoorsy, and I liked walking in the woods and looking at different plants and stuff. And I happened to walk down towards his trailer in the woods, and he was out in the woods. Not doing anything except looking at some plants that he wanted to make into a, shelter. Because he was outdoorsy like I was. And I know how to do that stuff.
You just walked up to him when you saw him in the woods?
Well, I didn't walk up to him. He walked up to me because I was bending over. I was looking at something. And he said, "That's interesting." I said, "Yeah, this is an interesting, plant and everything." And so we just, we sat down on this dead stump and we're talking.
Did you tell him you were married and everything? Did you tell him what was going on with your life?
Pretty much, we didn't talk about that. We were, having random conversation. And I'll be damned if my husband's son comes down in those woods and sees us together, just chatting and everything, and literally yanks me out of the woods, and then my husband starts cussing me out. We're talking to someone.
Did the boy came down and interrupted you?
Yeah, the boy came down and interrupted us. And
so you went back home with the boy, right?
I went back home with the boy pulling me out of the woods. And
was you letting him, or was you fighting him, and he was literally pulling you?
He was literally pulling me.
And you were trying to get away, and you couldn't?
And get away. So
sounds like the boy was not treating you like a stepmom. He was treating you like a little sister or something.
Yeah.
Like property.
Yeah, I really think he was treating me like a sister. And if my brother had done that, my brother's wrist would have been red because I would have tugged harder.
So you got back home, and he tells his old man what's going on. Richard starts yelling at you real bad. And when was this? Was this like a year after you got married, or what?
This was within the first year.
Right. But you stayed with this guy for 5 years, 5.5. What happened after that first year? It was just kind of like nothing. You didn't have. He was just like a roommate, right?
I was Richard's little slave. He would say, "Come on, clean the house, you little whore," and I would, you have to put up with it,
He would tell you, "Clean the house, you little whore." Was he trying to be funny at all, or was he being rude on purpose?
He would be rude on purpose because after he took to yelling at me because of the fact that I was in the woods with somebody my own age, that we had just been chatting with, I actually took off to the guy's place to get away from Richard. Well, Richard didn't necessarily like the fact that I had taken off. And he came down and pursued to try to get me back. Well, the guy was going to take me out for a night and bring me back. Just so I could cool off, he was going to take me partying, and then I would come back. and I don't drink, so, I wouldn't be drunk by the time I got back.
So wait a minute. You took off again into the woods. You ran to this guy's trailer.
Yeah.
And you were like, hey, I'm having trouble. And the guy said, well, let's go partying.
Yep.
And you're like, okay.
Yep.
And your husband had no idea where you were going, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't care, right? You were mad at him.
Yeah. I was raging. And yes, before we ever left, I had sex with him, and I lost my virginity to him.
You lost your what?
Yeah. Virginity to him.
Virginity.
Virginity.
You lost your virginity to this guy. Wow. Did the guy know you were married and all that deal?
Yeah.
And what was he, drunk or something?
Richard already had an alcohol habit.
No, I mean, was the guy that you gave your virginity to, was he drunk at the time?
No, sober.
So he's like, hey, baby, how you doing? You're having trouble with your old man? Let's have sex and go to a party.
Yep, pretty much.
And you were like, why did you want to have sex with him? Just rebellious? What?
Yeah, rebellion. I was still a little warhorse. I was going to fight.
And you fought with your giner, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I fought. And I got myself hurt, too.
How'd you get yourself hurt? Did Richard ever find out that you did that with him?
Oh, yeah, he found out.
Did he beat you up or anything?
No. He just turned into a monster after that. Every time I was, outside, he'd say, oh, you're looking for Eddie. You're looking for Eddie. You're looking for Eddie? And I'd say, fuck no, I'm not looking for Eddie. He's not here, you dumbass. I know where he is, and you don't.
So he didn't know where Eddie lived, but you could go to his house anytime if you wanted to, right?
Right.
Did you and Eddie talk on the phone or anything, like when Rick wasn't around, or?
We only had the sex that one time, and then a lot of stuff started happening, and I was the only one informed about it. Richard was never informed about it. So, yeah, I knew a lot more about Eddie's whereabouts than Richard did. Eddie actually went to jail for a drug offense, and I was just glad he was safe and away from that environment. So,
Drama.
Yeah, it was
So
drama.
over the hill and through the woods to Eddie's house we go. And that was just what, one time, or did you meet up with him a few times over those 5 years, or just that one time, or what?
Just that one time.
You didn't get pregnant or anything, did you?
Nope, I didn't conceive.
Eddie wear a condom?
Nope.
Was it like straight to the banging? Was there any foreplay? Was you attracted to Eddie, or was it just like pure rebellion, sex with anybody?
There was little foreplay, and actually, Eddie didn't break me all the way, so I actually was still technically a virgin until the second time.
You were not a virgin.
Mm.
You're not a virgin after you have sex.
No.
You mean physically you weren't all the way changed, right?
Right.
How about now? You still the same? You haven't been broke in all the way yet? Because you never had sex with Richard except for that one time that you tried it, but you never actually had sex with him, did you?
No, I never had sex with him. And
so you were married to this guy for 5.5 years, never banged him. He was treating you like you were his slave.
mm-hmm.
Did you ever when did you start getting in touch with your parents again and talking to them? How'd that go? What did Richard think about that?
Well, Richard never found out because we started getting smarter than him. My best friend hit a phone so I could talk to my parents.
Your best friend did what?
My best friend had a cell phone in her home. I could go and call my parents with without any evidence of me talking.
And you would go to your best friend's house?
Yes.
But you don't drive, so was it a neighbor?
Yeah, it was. I just walked right over to our home.
So the neighbor became your best friend, which is great for you because it gave you a chance to call your folks?
Mm-hmm.
So when Richard would go away, you would go next door and call Mom and Dad, right?
Right.
And what was the conversation like with you and your mom and dad?
Well, we were setting up a escape plan, and we tried to keep Richard in the dark about the whole escape plan.
Let me ask you, why did he need to be in the dark? Was you afraid that he would do something?
Yes, and his son had threatened already bodily harm to me, and I wasn't going to stand around and maybe get hit or killed.
All right, so what was the game plan? How'd it work?
All right. Well, I would go over, and we would close the front door, and then I would call my parents, and I would tell them, all right, I'm starting to bring over items out the home. I would bring either clothes or important things that I needed to have, like paperwork and all that stuff. And I needed to get out of the house. So I did so.
I'm sorry, I must have missed something. Your parents came to pick you up one night, or what?
No, we planned that carefully, actually.
What was you saying about items? I heard a noise. I'm ADD as all heck. What happened with items and clothes? What was all that?
I would take that over to my neighbors, and she would store them. She'd hide them in her home.
And Richard never knew you were doing that?
No.
Okay. So whenever he wasn't around, you would take stuff over there and get it ready.
Yeah. And the last thing to get out of there was the cat. And the cat had to be smuggled wisely because cats squirm.
Well, didn't the old man start to see that your stuff was missing?
No.
He never noticed that you were moving out slowly over time?
Nope.
Why, did you have like a separate bedroom or something?
No, the thing was that I'm a lot smarter than I look, and I would slowly make it disappear from the room. Like one day it would be there, the next day it'd be gone. Like I'd moved it to the bedroom and packed it with a few things, and then I move it out.
Like what? What all did you leave there with? Just your clothes or what?
It was clothes, a few DVDs, a few movies, some paper stuff, and my pet. And I didn't move anything else of that stuff.
So you had your cat there the whole time. How'd you have a cat? Did you get this cat after you moved in?
Actually, he was born there, and he was the last of the litter to survive. So I decided that I wanted a male cat, and I was going to move him out and save him from getting beaten by Richard.
So you stole the house cat? Took it with you.
That cat.
So, was it at nighttime when you left, or what?
It was actually in plain daytime. But the thing was that when we tried to do it without Richard knowing, Richard found out. And so we had to go...
Well, what happened? What do you mean?
He actually got wind of it.
How did that happen?
He spied on me enough, and he knows that I walk up and down the street in the morning hours. Well, that morning I was about to go out for my walk. Well, he figured out from the night before, when I hadn't, come home necessarily until after dark, that I was not in right spirits. I was actually growing impatient. And he knew by my bitterness that it was either his ass or mine that was going to be chewed out. And he decided he was going to interrogate me. And he interrogated me, and he pretty much pulled it out of me, and he said, "No, you're not going to go for your morning walk, and I'm going to get your parents for this because you're my wife, and I'm going to have my right of my wife." And it was actually starting to tear me apart. And so, that day, after he was done doing all that crap, a social worker showed up at our doorstep, and she wanted to see me.
Why is that? How did she know? How did the social worker get a hold of anything?
Because of the fact that my parents and my best friend filed the same complaint against Richard, and I was going to be getting out of there.
Did you leave with the social worker that day?
I left with a officer.
Police officer.
A social worker actually had to call a policeman because my husband threatened the social worker's life.
So that was it, huh? The cop came and rescued you.
Yep.
Was he a good-looking cop? Did you flirt with him?
He's a very nice cop.
Was you crying and stuff, or what?
Yeah, he actually took me to his office, and I was already shooken up pretty bad. Because after Richard interrogated me, I was extremely emotional. Like everything, the waterworks went crazy when I left. And
well, I'm sure they did. I mean, you had just been rescued. You're like, you're like Elizabeth Smart. I mean, you got rescued. I mean, right? Isn't that how you felt?
Yeah. And
I mean, what was going to happen? What would have happened if the social worker never came? Would you have been trapped there? Because he wouldn't have let you go anywhere, would he?
Yeah, I would have been trapped there. I would have been forbidden to go out in public ever again.
You realize how lucky you got?
Yeah.
What did you kiss your friend's butt for filing that complaint, and your parents too?
Yeah.
It sounds like you got lucky because he could have he's so much bigger than you, and I mean I know he's old, but did he ever beat you up and stuff?
No, it was only mental abuse.
He just threatened. He just talked a lot, right?
Yes,
but his son got physical with you a couple of times, didn't he?
His son nearly got physical with me when I got on the computer and he wanted on.
You guys were a happy family, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
So you're like his stepmom, which is what, 5 years older than him. Awkward. And anyways, not enough of that. So I don't even know where to go next. So you're at the police station, you're crying. And then, how do your parents get involved? How do you get your stuff out of your friend's house? How do you get back home? What happened?
Well, my friend, the night before I was to leave, gave all my stuff and my pet to my parents that were in a motel not far from where I was.
Now, wait a minute. So the pet was already over at the neighbor's house, and the only thing left behind was you, right?
Right.
And then Richard found out what was going on, and he wasn't going to let you go anywhere. So so the friend that lived next door or whatever was talking to your parents back and forth, right?
Right, telling what Richard was up to. And my parents skedaddled across the state line back up into Ohio, and he couldn't do anything. So,
Well, he can't do anything anyways. You're an adult. Just because you marry somebody doesn't mean you're their property.
Yeah.
He can't. No one can put their hands on you violently, not even when you're a child. So, what was anyway? So your parents, the friend told your parents to come to a nearby motel. Is that what happened?
Yes.
And after you went to the police station, then what did your parents do? Did they go get your stuff and then meet you at the police station, or what?
In the police station, I was going to be then transported up to a women's shelter for abused women. And I would stay there until my parents came down to get me.
How long was you in the shelter waiting?
I was in there for maybe an hour before they came.
Did they have your stuff with them already in their vehicle?
It was already at the house, already back.
Already back at their house.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So so was that the first when they came to the shelter to get you? Was that the first time you had seen them in 5.5 years?
Yep. Actually, it was the second time I've seen them because I had to sneak out to make my final plans to come home.
And you saw them and then went back to Richard's house, or what?
Yeah, we didn't want to tie my best friend into my disappearance.
I mean, why would it matter? It wouldn't matter if he knew, would it? Because he can't do nothing. You can get a restraining order or whatever you want. You didn't want Richard to bother his neighbor, your friend, right?
Right.
Okay, I understand. I get you. All right, so you're at the shelter. Your parents walk in. Okay, when you met your parents the first time, where did you meet them at? At your friend's house?
No, we went up to Somerset to mask my parents being there.
What
We said
does
we
that
were going to
mean?
go flower shopping, which we did.
Oh, you told Richard, okay, I'm going out with the neighbor, my friend, and he's like, okay, have fun, but you really went to meet your folks, right?
Yeah.
And then, okay, so when you first saw, where'd you meet him at?
Well, I went up to Somerset, and you probably don't know Somerset, Kentucky real well, but
It's not where I hang out.
main direct that's got all these restaurants and shopping centers.
Yeah.
We went into one of the shopping centers where there's a Goodwill. We parked in front of Goodwill, and then my parents came, and it was a happy reunion. And we sat in their car and we talked, and it was me doing a lot of talking because for 5.5 years I hadn't said what I wanted to say back then.
What'd you want to say to him?
Because I was afraid of their disappointment and their judgment. And so it was my moment to say, this is what I want. And
Why was it your moment? I don't understand that. They came and rescued you, right?
actually, I asked them to help me because of the fact that I was getting tired of Richard's lying, and I was starting to see him as the liar he really was.
What did he lie about?
He constantly told me my parents didn't care for me, they didn't love me, I was the scum under their shoe. You know, yes, they made some bad choices, but so did I. I was headstrong, stubborn, Irish, Scottish person that, I was just born that way.
Stuff
and
happens, right?
So, and I was never good about vocalizing what I really wanted. I gave everybody else what they wanted, but never made myself happy. So, it was my moment to tell my parents, look, I didn't want to go to Raymond Walters. It was not my first choice. I got really upset because you didn't let me go to my art school I wanted to go to when I was young. And I said, I will only come back if we make an agreement that I go and I do my floors, become a florist through education, and we find a second route for me too. And I decided.
Let me ask you a question. Why was it up to someone else where you lived and what you did? And why didn't you just say, look, you came and rescued me, let's get out of here, and I'm coming home? Why? You telling me if they would have said no, would you have went back and lived with Richard?
I would have not gone back to Richard.
What would you do? Go to the streets and live?
I would have found a way somehow either to go back with education somehow, or,
You didn't have a plan, right?
I didn't have a big, solid plan, but me and Sarah, through conversations with my mom privately in her home and everything, we made it evidence. We needed to speak in person about this plan, because this plan had to be my plan. It had to be coming from me, not coming from somebody else giving me suggestions on how I was going to do it. This had to be my plan, my ideas, no one else's.
Right.
And Sarah, who was my friend, and still is, she was the one that was listening to me. And when my plan finally came together and finally made sense, she said, "There's your plan. Now how are you going to do it?" And I decided it was time to talk to my parents. It was time to get everything organized for the escape effort. To actually be able to do my plan, I had to be away from Richard, because Richard will not let me do anything.